Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be joining the fashion roadman, his sister, Ife, to add a nice feminine spark to this video.
Alright, welcome back to the channel, and today we are talking about the unrealistic beauty standards in the fashion industry. So, obviously my sister has joined me on the channel.
Hi guys, I'm Ife.
Alright, so first thing I'm going to say is I'm going to define what a model is. Because I feel like it's good to have an understanding of what a model is before we even start talking about like unrealistic beauty standards and like modeling. So the role of a model, the definition is a model is a person with a role either to promote, display, or advertise commercial products. So most people, however, think that models should be like a representation of the people, talking about fashion specifically, should be a representation of people that wear the brand. However, the definition is a person with a role either to promote, display, or advertise commercial products. So what do you think about that, first off?
I feel like it's both, so it is the definition like what you just said. But in doing that, in advertising a product, surely you want it to display the sort of people who will be wearing that product.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
So in what way do you want them to display that? Because obviously this channel is fashion specific, so we're going to talk about that. When talking about fashion, right? In terms of modeling, you can represent people in your clothes on the runway. You can represent people in your clothes in campaigns. You can represent people in your clothes on like social media, like Instagram. So where do you think the role of a model should be more to advertise, and then where do you think a role of a model should be more reflective of just the everyday average person?
I understand that if you have a fashion brand and you want the clothes to look the best way they can be, it makes sense to put the clothes on someone who will make the clothes look really, really good.
Yeah.
But in the same time, I feel like fashion brands have a sort of moral duty to not promote something that's unrealistic. So it's important that even if the models, like, they look good, they shouldn't be something like really, really skinny or really, really big. It should be something healthy, something in between. Yeah.
Right, so obviously I'm with you on that. I'm not sure how I feel about all these like anorexic looking models, you know, like the size zeros that just look like they're about to die. Let me share a story with you actually. I'm not sure if I've told you this. So you know, one of my first fashion internship, right? When I was working there, we had a model come to our studio, and she was like one of those typical like, no, like just all bone, and like she fully fainted on set. And the reason she fainted on set was because she was malnourished, and the reason she was malnourished was because she felt like to stay as a model, you get what I mean, she had to starve herself so she could stay at that weight and
no
that
one agrees
size.
that's a good thing.
Yeah, so obviously, I'm obviously not a fan of size zeros. Obviously in the UK, size zero is American, isn't it? In the UK that's like a size 4. So I feel like if you're a healthy body, you're going to range, unless you're just like like really tall, like 6'9", you're going to range between size 8 to maybe 12, maybe even 14. Sometimes in rare occasions 16 if like you have a really curvy body, like your proportions are just different. So I don't like how now in the fashion industry we've just gone from one extreme, promoting those super skinny models, which I don't agree with, to now people are kind of going to the opposite direction, and we're kind of promoting some people that are a bit overweight.
I would argue that we're not promoting being overweight, we're not promoting obesity, but we're just normalizing the facts. I say we. People are normalizing the facts that people do come in different shapes and sizes, and it's unrealistic to think that everyone looks a certain way. Yeah,
and I think that was the bad thing that I'll say. Obviously, this is not specific to fashion, but we're going to talk about fashion.
Yeah.
In terms of modeling, because all the models are just like super skinny, for some weird reason, people started to act like the only body shape is that like straight, super skinny, when some people naturally people store fat in different places depending on genetics. So some people might have bigger hips, some people might, have bigger bums, thighs. You never know like what you get in terms of genetics. So in terms of that whole skinny thing just made no sense. That's why I'm more of a fan of really healthy people who are size 10 to a 16. Now I still feel like to be a model, you have to be a size, or you have to look like something that's, let me not say unattainable, but it's like hard to get. I feel like because it's going to promote a healthy lifestyle, a healthy living, something to strive towards. Because these are now people who just like work out a lot and are really, really healthy, as opposed to just like people who are starving themselves and like clearly unhealthy. And I would rather like to see modeling transition into healthy bodies. That's the main thing. I don't like this whole thing where people are pushing, we've gone from unhealthy in terms of too small to now unhealthy in terms of too big. And I feel like not everyone, or not a lot of people, but some people kind of, it's almost like they like extremes in a way. So what do you feel about that?
People don't like extremes. People are just, in terms of the like the overweight models like rising in prominence, it's not because people like extremes, it's just because, like what I said earlier, people want to show that people do come in different sizes. And another thing which is kind of off point is that there's an argument that the fashion industry does not promote these standards. The fashion industry is just responding to already existing standards. What do you think about that?
I don't think so, because I feel like the fashion industry is the biggest pusher in terms of beauty standards, like in terms of bodies. Because everyone wears clothes, that's for starters.
And the beauty industry as well.
Yeah, but everyone wears clothes, that's for starters. So what people deem as like an acceptable size, it all starts from fashion. There's no other industry where people look at like the bodies of people as much as in fashion. There's just no other industry. There's no, like even beauty is still about face, not really about bodies like that. So it's
the diet industry as well.
Yeah. Obviously the fitness industry is a totally different discussion, but in terms of fashion is, because not everyone cares about fitness, but everyone has to care about fashion because everyone wears clothes. So in that respect, I wouldn't say the fashion industry is responding to beauty standards. I think to a high degree, the fashion industry creates the beauty standards that we see, and that's why when we put people like Kim Kardashian and all those guys on the runway, now we go from the beauty standard being super skinny to now everyone wants a bum and everyone's like having surgery. Everyone
I agree. I'm just saying there's like two sides, like another way to look at it.
So recently, Nike had a plus size mannequin in their stores. I'm not sure if you heard about that story.
Heard about that.
So what are your thoughts on that? I think I've shared my thoughts on this channel, but what do you think?
I like it. I think it makes sense. The idea that it's promoting obesity is just stupid because it is a sports brand. And the idea is that you're meant to exercise
regardless of what shape you are. You just want to get healthy.
I think it's progressive. I think it's a good thing.
Same. I feel like having a plus size mannequin in Nike,
it's
first
inclusive.
of all, like how are big people going to lose weight if they can't even find clothes in their size? Like what are they going to wear to lose weight? Like there's no active wear for big people. They're not going to be encouraged to actually lose weight or exercise in any way. So in that respect, I don't understand why people said that promotes obesity. I think there's like three types of people. There's like people who like to see nuance, and there's just people at the two extremes. There's people who anything to do with plus size or anything, they just shut their mind off it without trying to understand it or look into it in any kind of regard. And then there's the other people who, anytime you say anything about fitness or staying fit, they're like, oh, you're body shaming. So those are the like types of people. But going more into that conversation, so when I was saying healthy bodies, for example, promoting healthy bodies, I feel like there are people like Ashley Graham, who I feel like are on the upper echelon of healthy bodies. I think Ashley Graham's like a size 18 or 16. Yeah, but Ashley Graham, I like what she stands for. She's always like working out. She promotes a healthy lifestyle and living. She just happens to have a curvier like body type naturally. I like that the fashion industry champions people like that, as opposed to people like Tess Holliday, who is at her heaviest weight she's ever been. She's on the cover of a couple of magazines, and she says that like she said some really problematic stuff, like going into like health. Like she said stuff like size is not a factor into your health, and in terms of that statement, that's just such a stupid statement to make, because like size obviously will always be a factor. It's not the only factor, exactly.
But when you're a certain
but it's a
weight,
big factor, especially when you're really, really, really obese. Yes, size is a factor, because an increase in body fat percentage obviously leads to things like a higher chance of
doctor.
a higher chance of getting arthritis earlier, coronary heart disease, stuff like that. So to just dismiss it, and the issue I have with that is she has so many followers, and then she's going to say something like, "Oh, size doesn't matter. Size is not an indicator of health," and then everyone's just going to run with that and see that as an excuse not to strive towards a healthy lifestyle. And this goes into beauty standards, because
I think you're overstating her influence though.
I don't think so. I feel like 1 million followers is a very, very big influence.
No, not that she hasn't got any influence, but if she says a statement that is just factually untrue, I don't think everyone who follows her is going to run with it.
Okay, a reason why I said that is because there was a story, well, many stories. Because Ashley Graham, I follow Ashley Graham.
Yeah, same.
There was a time where Ashley Graham lost weight. Mm-hmm. She wasn't like skinny or anything. She just went from like
And
being curvy to like, yeah. And people were sending her death threats and saying that she should no longer be considered plus size, and like people got. So that's why I feel like Tess Holliday's influence surely can't be overstated, because those type of people come from the Tess Holiday camp, thinking that because you lose a tiny bit of weight now, you should no longer be considered plus size.
I feel like that's the minority who have that sort of mindset.
You think so?
Definitely.
I'm not sure, because I have met like a lot of people personally.
A lot or a few?
Well, I only know so many people anyway. But first of all, a lot of my friends aren't like plus size to start with. They're not like big. But the ones that are, a lot of them do have this strange mindset that sort of sides with a lot of Tess Holiday-y ideology. But obviously, going back to some of the prompts I have on my phone, do you think that everyone can be a model?
No.
Why do you think not everyone can be a model?
Well, realistically, not everyone is attractive.
Yeah.
Obviously, attractiveness is subjective, but there are like universal-ish ideas. Like there are some people who we just think are attractive in general, and some people who aren't. And that's not very politically correct, but if you want to promote your fashion, obviously the person has to be at least like somewhat attractive.
Yeah, I was so glad you said that, because I feel like this goes back to beauty standards and just the way people think these days. I think people are too far removed from like reality. And that's where I feel like we kind of have issues in terms of...
But at the same time, I feel like it's important to promote different sorts of beauty. Like, I'm not trying to say there's only one type of attractiveness. There are loads of types, and fashion brands should reflect that. But doesn't mean that everyone can be a model, realistically.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be obviously attractive white people, attractive black people, attractive Asians. However, just generically, or obviously whatever they say, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. However, there's just some people that like...
They can't sell.
Yeah, they're just, their face, they're just not generically attractive to the point where as a brand you'd want to use them to promote your product.
Yeah.
And people need to not forget that fashion brands are businesses first. Before anything else, they're always businesses.
True.
What matters is sales the most. So people just think you can't just put any old person in your clothes when you're promoting your clothing, because you're going
a whole human being.
because otherwise it's not going to be something that people think is luxury. It's not going to appear luxury if you're just putting any random person in your clothes. It's the same thing why like there's something I read like a while ago where people prefer to aspire towards things. So if you put you have a model that majority of people are a healthier weight than, or majority of people it's like an easy target, people won't feel like that's luxury. People won't feel like that's something to aspire towards, and people won't buy into it as much. So in terms of beauty standards, I think people in terms of the modeling industry need to understand the nuance in terms of the role of models in the industry.
Even though I agree with what you're saying generally, like there are businesses and they care about profits, I feel like in the fashion industry, and actually in every industry, it's important to look at the effects that your activities are having and to at least consider the social implications. So of course you want models that look nice, but you have to think, okay, how is what I'm doing going to affect people? Like, this is kind of off topic, but in the beauty industry, like, it's wrong to Photoshop models and then claim that it's not Photoshop.
Oh yeah, for
because
sure.
it sends off a wrong message. And in the same way in fashion, like, even though you want to promote a certain thing, it's wrong to Photoshop your models to make them look perfect. It's just wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I want to talk about is the whole like the male and the female side to it, because I feel like the expectations are kind of different. I feel like women do have more pressure to look a certain way, but in terms of the fashion industry, men have a lot of pressure as well, because male models look the same. Like, I've only ever seen a plus size male model
I've
once
personally never seen a plus size
ASOS.
model in my life.
And it kind of took,
Like
I was kind of
model.
shocked because I never see it. Like, it's so rare. They all look exactly the same in terms of body size. At least for women now, you have models who are thin and who are bigger, small boobs, big boobs, whatever. But for men, it's all the same. And I feel like that should change, because you haven't got to have a six-pack to be healthy, you know?
Yeah. I was going to say this because a lot of what people say is obviously that, like, there are more pressures in terms of like for women than men. I just think it's a bit different in terms of the fact that, like, women in terms of beauty and stuff like that, and like women have to cover all their blemishes, because like if you have one spot as a woman, like some men just go mad and like whatever. People go mad on social media. There's more pressures in terms of that. However, with men, I feel like body-wise, there's a lot more pressure. That's why male plus-size model, like a modeling industry for males, doesn't even exist. Because for men, everyone just has six-packs. Everyone's just like dench.
I wouldn't say there's more pressure. The standard is like more strict, and there's less diversity, but there's still less pressure. Like, if a guy is overweight, people don't really care. Yeah. But if a woman is the same level of overweight, they'll be like, "What's your health? What are you eating?" Like, there is more pressure.
Okay, yeah. That's true. There's that pressure in terms of that. But if we look at the modeling industry, going back to the modeling industry, what do you think is the reason why we barely see any male plus-size models?
I feel like it's because, well, this is my opinion, I don't know, but like originally all models look the same, really, like both male and female. Like, there's a standard for men, a standard for women, but women have been pushing to see more diversity, and men don't really care as much. So there's been no change because there's been no drive for that change. I never heard a man complain about the lack of plus size models.
To be fair, I think part of the reason, obviously, is what you said, that more pressures for women and stuff like that. I also think part of the reason is men are more, because this is going into a bit too much like out of beauty standards now, but you know how, like, let's go into like stuff like gender roles and stuff. So a gender role for a man is
feminist here.
A gender role for a man is kind of like, whatever happens, you stick it up. You don't. Whatever happens, you just have to take it. You can't cry. You can't show any emotion. I think that plays into it, where men just feel like we just have to be muscular regardless, or we can't promote that beauty standard because.
To add to that,
we just have to suck it up, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. To add to that, I feel like the reason that is different is because for women, there's a much bigger emphasis on looking good. Like, for men, they're told that, okay, if you don't look good, you can compensate in like try to be smarter, try to work harder. But for women, it's like, if you don't look good, regardless of everything else, that's a big barrier. So that's why there's more pressure on women in terms of the fashion industry and in general to look good.
Yeah. Okay, another topic going into like beauty standards is actually, till recently there weren't even that many plus sizes available, and now brands are starting to move into that. So what are your thoughts on that? And then I'll give my thoughts after.
Do you mean like in modeling or in just the industry as a whole?
The industry in general, because we're talking about fashion industry.
It needs to be there because some people are plus sized and they deserve to wear clothes.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's even a debate to be had.
Okay, can I talk about something though? So the issue I have with a lot of people, especially people who are like really obese or like really big, is that they have this expectation that brands just have to make everything they make for the average size, they need to make for them. And someone like me, I'm not obese, I'm not overweight in any way. However, like both of us have this problem. We have really long legs.
Jeans,
so we struggle, both of us, we struggle to find trousers. We have really long legs, so our legs are longer than majority of what brands do. And I understand that because as a brand, you want to make what the average is. Supply and demand. If the demand for really long legs is small, why do you make loads of trousers in that size? Doesn't make sense, does it? So in terms of that, I feel like a lot of, let's say, people who are in the plus size industry and stuff, they have this entitlement where they feel too much that like brands have to make our size, and I feel like...
Can I interrupt you?
Go on.
I feel like if someone's a size 30 and they're complaining, oh, I can't find my clothes size, and that's kind of your issue.
Yeah.
But people who complain normally aren't even that big, size 16, 18, and they can't find clothes that are nice in their size.
Right.
And it should be available to them because there are a lot of people that size.
My point is, it should be available to them, but not to the point of what the average size is, because it's people forget it's a business. And that's why I don't even complain that I can't find my size, because I understand the business of fashion.
Yeah.
In terms of my leg length is not the normal leg length. My legs are too long. So if I really want something, it might be more expensive for me, and I might have to go to the tailor to get something that fits right. But that's the price I had to pay for not being in the SKU. There are some places I could find my size, some rare places.
Shout out to Topshop.
I don't.
My long-legged girls go Topshop.
Like for example, I always tell people, like, if you're tall and you don't want to spend too much money on trousers, Marks and Spencer.
They're expensive.
Not really. Marks and Spencer do trousers for £20.
Oh really?
Exactly. That go up to like a 37 inside leg inch, 39, 35. Yeah. So there's still options. Like if you're a plus size person, I'm sure there's still options.
Yeah.
However, I think it's more the entitlement of just expecting that you can have everything available to you. I know you're going, so I know you feel some type of way about that. So voice your opinion.
I just feel like it's problematic to say that someone is entitled just because they want to find clothes in their size. You're taking what I said out of context. I said people can find clothes in their size. However, there's this big push on brands that you didn't make this in a size 19, 18, you didn't make this in a size 20, you didn't make this in a size 22, without understanding the nuance in terms of business and how that just doesn't make any business sense. Like, why would brands, just to appease a small group of people, make a loss and then go into bankruptcy? Do you get what I mean? No, but it's true. So if I'm a brand, let's say I had a brand, right? I would get a SKU of what the average size of my customer is, and most of my clothes, like in terms of, I'll still make a size 20, but I only make like 5, 10. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, if there's obviously less stock because less demand, fair enough.
But that's what brands do, which is why
they don't even stock.
No. Now brands do that, but the only issue is because the numbers are so low, they sell out quickly, and then the other people can't find their size. But it makes sense because ultimately, you're not going to overmake a brand a size that doesn't sell.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? And sometimes it works in people's favor. Like me being really tall and stuff, on sale, I always find my stuff on sale. I don't know why I'm putting your eyebrows up, but I always find stuff on sale because not many people are my size in terms of that. So it works in my favor.
Yeah.
But that also shows that like it didn't pay the business, the company, to make my size. The fact that it's on sale.
Yeah.
And it's always my size that's on sale. It shows that my size doesn't work.
Yeah.
in a business like perspective, but they still make it. Why? Because they probably feel the need to appease to certain people, and they're willing to lose a lot of money just to do that. So obviously, I feel like everyone has a right to wear clothes. Obviously, it's good that everyone should find their size, but to what level people should find their size, I think people should be realistic about that in terms of understanding the nuance in terms of business. But yeah, I think we'll stop there because this video is getting a bit too long, but it was a good discussion. We had a good ramble. Tell them where they can find you.
Okay, I'm on Instagram. It's ife.eo, ife.eo. Follow me.
Yeah, but comment down below what your thoughts are in terms of beauty standards and fashion, whether you think that there are toxic beauty standards created by fashion or not, or your opinions on some of the things we touched on in this video. And yeah, on that note, I'll be back soon.
One last thing. For those of you who watched his last video that I was in and you attacked me, I'm just a kid. Please, I'm sensitive. I know that I'm not a fashion expert. Just please go easy on me, okay? Because I see you.
Why are you trying to victimize yourself? You're not a child.
Yes, I am.
You're a child?
Yes, I am.
18 is a child?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks for watching.